What can you see? Anything? Oh, okay. Oh my God. You can see me. Oh, there's lots of people here. Can you hear me? Hello, everyone. We're just doing technical jiggery pokery at this end. I can hear you. You can hear me. Oh, I can see. Rachel Cable says you can see and hear me. That's good. So there's a Q&A button and there's a chat thing at the side. So if I press that, will I see that? Oh, yes, I can see Greg Mothersdale is there. And he can see and hear me as well. So that's good. So, okay, great. If you're in, you're in. So what I was going to say now doesn't really apply, which is that, oh, I've just gone very dark. There I am again. If this is fully subscribed, which it looks like it's going to be, because there's 73 people before it's actually even 8 o'clock, the other people will be able to see on YouTube. So what I will probably do is wait a little bit before we kick off, just so people don't miss the start. I am here in my house in Treforest in South Wales. I'm Jon Pountney, and you're here to hear me talk about the Allure of Ruins, which is my project. And I'm going to talk about some other projects as well. So I'll be sharing the screen in a bit. We've got 74 participants at the moment. We've now got 75. So I'm not sure when to start because I don't want people to miss the start. Do you think I should? I'm being told I should start. Okay, I'm going to start. So yeah, my name is Jon Pountney, and I have been a photographer for a very long time. As you can tell from the length of my hair, I haven't had my hair cut since I first took a photograph over 25 years ago. So basically, I moved to Cardiff in 1996 to go to college in Howard Gardens, which is, well, it's not there anymore. It's been demolished, which is was an art college. And I did photography there because the course was so bad that they couldn't afford paint or easels. So that was a good start. So I taught myself photography in the dark room. And that's how I got going. So that's a very long time ago. And since then, I've concentrated on several different kind of fields of work. I was a commercial photographer for 4 or 5 years, and then I worked in Jumping Jacks. Some of you might know me from Jumping Jacks nightclub as the club photographer. That was in 2004 to about 2008. But since then, my main project that most people know me for was a project called Cardiff Before Cardiff, which I did started about 10 years ago. Actually, I think the first feature of the photos I saw online today was 10 years ago today. So since then, I've been working with social history projects, stuff like that. Slightly lost my thread. I'm just still watching the participants counting up. So people are still coming in. We're on to 82 now. So I will start sharing my screen. Oh, what I wanted to do was to toast you all with a sherry. And thank you all for coming. So chin chin, everyone. I hope you'll join me in having something wherever you are. And yeah, don't forget, if you want it in the chat bar thing at the side or in the Q&A thing, which I now can't see. Oh, it's down here. You can ask me questions as I go along. Some people leave it till the end, but I'm not bothered. You can ask me as I go along. So I'm going to attempt to share screen. And this is all very weird. No, I've done it wrong already. I need to open the folder. So the first thing is here. And then I go back again, share screen, there it is. So, hang on, hang a bang. Let's try doing it this way. So can my technical advisor see that?
No.
Can't. Oh, can you see that?
No.
What can you see? Just me still?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Share. We're in. Can you see that now? Yeah. Thumbs up. Okay. Everyone, this is the first time I've done this, so I'm obviously clueless. And now I can't see the question bar, so that's fine. We'll go back in a minute now. So the first project that I'm going to talk about is called God Forgive Me. I haven't got earache in this photo. I don't know what I was doing. This project was instigated by me kind of stumbling across someone's grave after a job for Welsh Water. I went to Vena, which is near Merthyr, and I investigated a grave there, which, as you can see, is Crawshay's grave. What really intrigued me about this was the "God Forgive Me" inscription, which people tell me is quite a common thing, but I have never seen another grave that actually just says "God Forgive Me" on it. So this is really where my journey started with this whole project, was my interest in this grave, and talking to my friend Lee Evans, who's from Merthyr. As you can see in this picture, and that's why I'm using this picture, besides the step ladder that I had to use to get over the very large railings, you can see behind my head there's a pub. And I was told by Lee that knocking out time from that pub, people used to come over and urinate on the grave of Crawshay because he was so hated in Merthyr as the Iron Master of Cyfarthfa Ironworks, and he is the Crawshay, one of the Crawshays of Cyfarthfa Castle. He basically was just, hello.
I can't see your screen now, and somebody else has said it.
Oh. What can you see? Oh, what's going on there? I haven't touched anything. Sorry, everyone. I don't know what's happening. So
I can see it now.
Oh, you can see it now. That was weird. Yeah, but oh, it's not. You can't see the top of my head. Right. Sorry, everyone. So yeah, so basically, I was intrigued by this and started to do some work around this area, and looking at the themes that this kind of brought up, the "God forgive me" kind of thing. Why this guy wanted to be forgiven by God. He was incredibly rich, but not a very nice man. He suffered with very bad health. He had a stroke. He went deaf, and he kind of believed that all of this was brought on by God, basically, and he wanted God to forgive him. He's very God-fearing. So what we've got here, can we see this? So what we've got here is I basically got permission to get into the grave and do a rub-in of the top of the grave. And then I also did work within Cyfarthfa Ironworks itself. If I go to full screen, does that look better? Yeah. So the actual ironworks itself, I put a Bible in there. It's a very strange space. And so what I did was, I now can't go through the pictures if I've gone to full screen. So I put a Bible in there, put it in this little cavern. What I wanted to do was restore some kind of goodness to the space. If you almost feel like you're in the depths of hell, and if you can imagine that place in itself would have been incredibly hot. It's an industrial space, an ironworks where iron is melted and made. So I was trying to put some kind of feeling of godliness back into this place, not being remotely religious myself. I just felt that, and you might see, feel the same when you see the pictures now. So that's what I was trying to do. So he was also very interested in the process of photography, Crawshay, and I looked at Victorian styles of photography, and that is what we've got here with cyanotypes. So these were shown in the Red House in Merthyr in 2015. And the plants within the images are actually plants that I picked within the kind of environment of the ironworks. So that's what is happening here. And then I also created some acetate negatives to create these cyanotypes of the actual inside of the ironworks itself, which is the only one of its kind which still exists in some form in the world. The largest part of it is still almost completely intact within the wall area. So this was something, again, working on the theme of God Forgive Me. And this was a negative image of the largest part of the ironworks. And these are some of the installation pics from what I did. I took some castings from the brick work of the actual blast furnace wall, almost feeling like it was like a Victorian style death mask of the actual thing. That was my kind of idea there. Again, the cyanotypes, and then this is the rubbing from the top of his grave. So that is an actual impression from the top of his grave, and that's something that was really weird to do, actually. I was thinking about brass rubbings, but just this God Forgive Me thing really stuck in my mind. So these are some of the install shots. This is these are the plants that I picked from the area, and then some of these images are showing how I actually make the images. Cyanotype is a very old-fashioned process which uses sunlight on a sensitized paper, and you make the chemicals yourself, and then you come up with this amazing blue kind of positive, hence cyanotype. Obviously cyan is blue. And then this is our garden. This is in our garden drying on the washing line. So it's a very kind of simple, almost primitive process. And that's one of the images I took for those negatives. And then we've got some images from inside the ironworks now, which some of you will have seen that I've been sharing on Twitter the last few days. It's a very kind of strange environment now, because at the time that it was working, it would have been an incredibly hot and horrible kind of atmosphere. But now it's this kind of very silent cathedral-like space, which is very, very creepy. And the silence and kind of dampness is very overwhelming. And you can see it's got a lot of kind of weird dead-end tunnels and just a very strange area. And I did a lot of extensive exploration of it quite a few years ago now, because it was at that point was totally open and anyone could go in. Kids had obviously been in all over the place and clambered all over everything. It wasn't that badly damaged though. And it's a fascinating structure to get inside. I did a lot of these with long exposures, and then it's natural light and a torch. And then I did, I would move. It's like painting with light, basically. It's a process where you do like a 30-second exposure, and then you illuminate the kind of area that you want to photograph. And that's basically what happened. So this was shown in 2015. And that's really where I started kind of, I'm going to have to go back to screen sharing again now. New share. No, hang on, everyone. We'll get there in the end. Oh my God, I've got an awful lot of messages here. Right, I'm just going to look at these messages. Cheers, Brian. Hi, good evening from Barry. Catherine Lewis, can't see it, but she can now. Someone has said the screen has shrunk, so have I in the 10 minutes I've been doing this, to be honest. So we're all in here now. And I think that, I think this is everyone saying that they can't see it. Hello from Cumbria. Jake, how are you? Are you all saying hello, or are you all just complaining? I can't really tell. So anyway, you've all got it now. That's great. So basically what we'll do now is we'll go to another folder, which is the one which says beach combing. And then we have to go back to, how did I manage to get over the railing and to do the rubbing of the grave? I've just seen that Louvain has said. So I hired from the wonderful men in Screwfix a incredible double-ended kind of ladder, step ladder, which cost me about 80 quid. And then the other day I redid it with a drone, which took about 2 seconds and was a hell of a lot easier. So yes, that's how I did it. So now I'm going to go back to share screen. Beachcombing, share. Here we are. So what can we see now? Technical advice. Oh, really? Yes, your screen looks very different to my screen. So yeah, so this is the next project that kind of builds in my mind to what we're talking about tonight. And I'm going to talk about this one a bit quicker now. So this started in 2014 that I started visiting an area called the Foreshore in Cardiff. It is a post-industrial wasteland, which sounds very cliched, but that is exactly what it is. And it's basically the remains of slum. Hello, technical. Okay. I can't, because I can see everything here, and it's very difficult to know what people can see and what people can't see. Oh, hang on. Is this? If I try and make that bigger, can you see all the photo now?
I can, yeah.
It's within a green box, and I don't think that's very evident. This, I'm doing a lot of research and development free of charge for Zoom here. In actual fact, it's costing me money. They're not paying me. So I think what I need to remember to do now is put everything within this green box. So 9 people have messaged me now, but I can't see those messages. So very excitingly, I'm going to talk about this and wait to see the messages. So this project, it's called Beachcombing, and this was shown in the Senedd, which is the Parliament of Wales, and it was shown up in Oriel Colwyn as well, which is a very good little independent photography gallery in Colwyn Bay, which you must all visit when you're in go on your holidays to Llandudno. But so this was a series of work which kind of grew out of me visiting this very strange kind of nowheresville, which is a piece of land which is created from rubble. And I've been looking recently on maps, and I think that it actually was totally created from rubble and kind of demolished buildings that were then pushed and flattened into the sea. And this is in Splot in Cardiff. So what you had there was an area around the Portman Moor Road, which is now the industrial estate, which, because the Portman Moor Road has gone because the houses there were flattened, and the Eastbourne steelworks were pushed into the sea, not very environmentally friendly, and then they were basically just flattened and left there. So what we've got here is, oh, I don't want to move it out of the green. So what we've got here is an exploration of this area, which is almost totally created from rubble, from people's houses, from a station, potentially Queen Street Station, I think might have gone there, the original Victorian one. And then the rest of what we've got here is slag, which is from what was Eastbourne Steelworks. So you can look through to the beach here, and it looks fairly picturesque here, but what you can't really see at this point, this whole beach is created from brick. There's no sand, it's just brick and rubble. And then when you come in closer, you get this kind of weird impression of, just because there's text everywhere in all of these bricks and different surfaces, you get this weird kind of psychogeographical map of South Wales made up from rubble from these places, which now also don't exist either, because these are all brickworks which very often were incorporated into pits, because clay, I think, is clay is above coal in the kind of strata of the earth, you know. So you've got these, oh, that's annoying. So I did some still lives as well, but they're not, these aren't opening in the order that I wanted them to open in. So I collected a lot of objects from the beaches, and then I did these still lives. So obviously that's someone's glasses. Plastic plays a big part, which you can probably totally understand. And it's a very strange thing to pick up this stuff, a rivet, you know, it's a steelworks, loads of rivets. And then a lot of fabric had survived. So once they'd pushed all this stuff into the sea, then it became a kind of landfill area. So you're looking at kind of 60s, 70s and early 80s detritus of stuff that was just, nobody wanted, and it was just shoved into the sea, basically, on the edge of Cardiff. So a lot of these 70s plastic, you know, materials, nylon and stuff like that, doesn't degrade at all, and it's all still there. And then you've got stuff like this, which is just glass, brick, asbestos, not so great. And that's what litters this foreshore. So basically, I was there for about 5 years, and I made this big body of work, which is still kind of ongoing. And I just really wanted to explore the atmosphere of the place. It's people walk their dogs there, but otherwise it's not really somewhere that is kind of, you know, on the beaten track, as it were. And I became really kind of fond of the vagaries of the different kind of weather conditions and stuff there. You can see right over to the north of Devon and Somerset. So you've got this kind of feeling of space. And this is when I started really to kind of see echoes within my work with painters that I liked. And then, you know, particularly this one reminded me of Constable, with it when he used to go out skying. He used to call it skying, where he'd go out and he'd do kind of studies of the sky, and he would learn about weather systems, and he was very into the kind of burgeoning science of weather systems and stuff at that point, which was before that people believed that wind was something that just came out of the ground. It was no one before the kind of 19th century really understood what wind was, and that's what the kind of stuff that I was really getting into, the kind of art that I was really getting into at the point I was doing this project. That's a sign that's now in our garden because I didn't want it to go. And I'm sure Hilary will probably say that she carried that to the car because I thought it was going to be too heavy. Hello.
Someone is asking, could you share the location of the beach?
The location of the beach. So it's quite hard to say where it is. I mean, I can put it on Twitter and pinpoint where it is on Twitter, because you can't see it at all from the road besides one tiny gap in the hedge. But this is in Splot in Cardiff, and it's a massive area, but it's a hinterland, so you don't really have to go through it to get to anywhere else, which is quite strange. And I think that's why it's kind of just left to kind of rot in its own way. So yeah, so this was work that I did again, and this is one of my favorites. This is something that kind of started the cogs whirring, that I went down one day and the light was falling in a certain way, and I'd looked at this piece of metal before, and then it pulled up this date, 1931, just because the light was hitting it at a certain angle. So I just found that incredible, that this piece of, you know, metal detritus was on the beach, and it had been there 40 years. Obviously, at some point, someone had been proud enough to leave an imprint on this, whatever it was, you know, the date that it was constructed, and that really stuck with me. And we're back to the beginning there now. So I'll go back to my, hang on, new share. No, I don't want to do that. This isn't ideal. I want to go back to having a bigger screen because I can't see all the chat. 15. Right. So I've mentioned where it is. Oh, amazing! Someone has been on the hills. Yeah, you can see you can see from the hills in Somerset, I think, across to Old Smoky, which is something that I'll talk about shortly. A brick lover's paradise. Yes, it is. Our garden is quite full now of bricks, unfortunately. So everyone's saying yes. I don't know why everyone's saying yes. That's good. Hello, Lenore. Thank you for coming from Australia, Tasmania, or wherever it is that you are. I can't remember now. I think it is Tasmania, or it might not be. But thank you for coming. And I don't even know if I've pronounced your name correctly, but thank you for coming very much. Oh, yes, Melbourne. There we are. You answered that very quickly. So, yeah, so let's try now to go to a new share. And we'll close that. Oh, I'm back again. There we are. Oh. This is all very confusing. Zoom is not great. So then now what we've got here now is a new share again. Share screen, Finder, Llangattock. So if I pull that out. So what can you see at the moment now? Just the folder. Yeah, fine. This is brilliant. I'm getting the grip. I'm getting very good at this now, guys. So the third project. So this is Llangattock, and I only went up there for one day, but one day was enough. And I'll tell you why, because it's really weird and it's a very creepy place. So this is at the top of what you'd probably think is a mountain. It's was a lime quarry, and this was to do with metal production in God knows when. But it overlooks Crickhowell. It's very picturesque, but obviously it's big spoil tips. And if there's anyone out there that wants to raise a toast now for every time I mention spoil tips, there's a lot of spoil tips. But this is a very unearthly place, and it's, I mean, look at that. It's really weird. It's a bit like what people thought a Martian landscape was before we actually got onto a Martian landscape. It's a very kind of human created, terraformed kind of landscape. And that's not one of the humans, that's actually an animal that's up there. But it's not an animal now, it's bones. But it's just a very weird place. And there's no evidence of people, but it's totally created by people. And this is the thing that started to really stick in my mind, that the landscapes I was becoming interested in weren't landscapes as you think, you know, bucolic English country landscape or Welsh or Scottish or whatever. It's more to do with looking for the trace of a human element within the landscape. And this is a place which fits the bill perfectly. I went up there in 2016 to do some work up there, some photographs of a sound installation in a cave, which is really interesting. And I went back in 2018. So these are from 2018. And it's all to do with just this totally, I mean, to my eyes now that are trained, I know that this is a man-made landscape, but a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know. You know, it's a very weird place. Obviously, when you have angles like this that show the tracks and whatever, you can start to imagine a tramway or something there, or little carts and stuff. But it's just a weird place. There was no one. I didn't see a single soul there the day I was there, but all you see is these weird triangular markings everywhere, which make you think of what are the funny handshaking gang? I can't think of their names now. The Masons. You know, you think of the Masons and their triangles, but this place is full of triangles and weird kind of arcane symbolism, and it just really struck a chord with me. And so what I started to do was, I'm back again. So if we got here we are. Coastal footpath is signposted on Rover Way. Yes, I think it is. Someone else says, I love my spoil tips. Yes, I love spoil tips, everyone. Woo. So Lenore says, has this place ever been used to make movies? Probably not, because it's right at the top of a mountain. And it's a bit of a trek to get there. But I am going to go back with my drone later on in the year when it's better sun, because to see it from above, it just looks absolutely crazy. So next one now is our friend Walker Evans. Where's he gone? He's be here, look. So share screen. So we're looking at influencers now. And what we have to do, because it's in the green box, we've got to remember the green box, everyone. What we're looking at now is, obviously, it's opened on the wrong picture, because it would do, wouldn't it? Bloody thing. So let's start with that one. So I started to think about how I can coalesce lots of bodies of work into one body of work. And I decided, right, I'm going to visit everywhere. And I'm going to take my time, and I'm just going to go to all these places. In South Wales, there's a lot of places. So it's now become more about a kind of reflection on atmosphere than it has become about a kind of academic. I am not going to visit every place. I'm not going to stand next to things with a ruler. You know, it's not about those kinds of photos. It's about trying to relate to you, the viewers, what it's like to be in those actual places. And that's much more important to me. My biggest influence on this project now, besides, I'm probably more influenced by painters than I am photographers. I'm not a massive fan of a huge amount of photographers. And I do find photographers in general incredibly miserable to talk to. So I do talk to a lot more painters and artists in that way. And I originally trained as an artist and a painter. But the kind of influence for this was Walker Evans. And so we've got his book here, which is the world's only copy, which is printed back to front, which is a bit weird. So I got this at a very bargain price. So what we've got here is the Walker Evans book, which I think you should all buy, which he did in the late 20s and early 30s, I think I'm right in saying. But what we've got here is a kind of cross section of graphic images. And by that, I don't mean graphic images of violence or sex. I mean like graphics. And we've also got a kind of weird overview of America at a point where it all, even though it's not very old as a thing, it's already appears to be decaying. So these pictures are very influential on me. And I mean, I love something like this. These cars must be like 20 years old, but they're already in a scrapyard. And it's stuff like this that I find absolutely fascinating. And that's a bit like with the foreshore, you're pulling stuff out, you're pulling fabric out that's underground. It's like a Roman excavation, but it's something which is probably been buried there within my lifetime. Statues play a big part. His use of light and kind of composition. This kind of semi-abstract stuff I absolutely love. I really think that there probably isn't a photographer today working who has done something newer than Walker Evans. He did absolutely everything, and he did it better than most people. So just brilliant stuff. And this is super, super influential on me. Bessemer converters here. So this is obviously a steelwork somewhere in the Midwest. I have no idea where, sorry. If you like telegraph poles, I mean, this there's a lot of telegraph poles here. And then this is my kind of key thing that I really love. And this is a pressed tin sheet. And I don't know if this is from a building or a cinema or what, but it's incredible, the detail in it. And this, for me, is the key image from this body of work. And this is what really spurred me on to look at, to start this project, because I just found it fascinating that it's doing one thing. It's talking about Americana and America. It's showing an America that's already decaying, but it's also talking about, you know, it's it's an Ionic, or is it a Doric column? I can't remember which. It's not a Corinthian column because Corinthian columns have Corinthian leaves, but I think this is an Ionic column. So it's talking about a Greek and Romanesque architecture. So it's talking about past civilizations. He's already talking about past civilizations in the civilization that he's in. It's like he's already predicting the end of Americana, and we're talking about pre-Second World War here. So I think it's really, really important and ahead of its time. So I'll go to Greg Mothersdale says those cars are older than 20 years old. They are now, Greg, but that picture was taken a long time ago. So you've got to remember. Brian says that his daughter says that my beard is like Father Christmas. And that's right, Brian, it is. And that's who I model myself on. And someone said, oh yeah, Chris Aylward has said Trefil is often used as, it's easier to get to by road. Yeah, Trefil Quarry is where they've shot a lot of Doctor Who and stuff. And I think Greg Mothersdale, he's thanking me now, I think Greg Mothersdale has done some filming up there. So that's good to know for you all. So now we're going to go to the Allure of Ruins, which is the main act for tonight. I have absolutely sweated blood today to try and shrink this down to a manageable amount of images, and I can't. So it's basically, you know, it's my life's work, so don't worry about it. What does the screen look like now? Cool, okay. So here we go. So the Allure of Ruins is the main body of work, and this is several bodies of work that pre-existed and a lot of new work put together. So this is me standing in South Wales and eventually the rest of Wales and looking at how the Industrial Revolution marked Wales and now what has happened to those buildings, those spoil tips, those slag heaps, all these different places. Obviously, I'm just 43. It was my birthday last week. I wasn't able to document those buildings when they were working and extant, but I would like to have done that. And I'm really sad and annoyed quite often that I was born at the wrong time, and I would have liked to have, you know, documented stuff like that whilst things were happening, rather than, you know, me just wandering around in a wasteland. But this is what I'm trying to do now. Then I'm trying to create an overview and an atmosphere, like I said, rather than a specific thing about size, weight, you know, shape. This is more about a sense of place than an academic record of place. So what we're looking at here is some slag, which is the byproduct of steel production, and this is the stuff which is just poured onto the Cardiff foreshore and was left to solidify in the sea, basically. And it's got this incredible color and texture. It's basically like glass, I think. But this is something that really reminds me of that kind of semi-abstract stuff that Walker Evans was doing. And this one also really reminds me of our friend Graham Sutherland, who was a painter who worked in Britain up to the 70s and was once known as the greatest, probably the greatest painter in Britain. And he was called that by, I think, by Francis Bacon to Lucian Freud, something like that. So he was really up there, but he did a lot of semi-abstract stuff, which was based around, particularly his war art, which was based around working in steelworks in Port Talbot and other places. I think he did some in Cardiff as well, so potentially in the steelworks where this slag came from. And he's got some amazing paintings of, you know, men working in the steelworks. So you should go and seek those out if you can. I can't go to full screen because something's going wrong. So I'm just going to basically flick through these now. And if you've got any questions, I will go through at the end, because I now can't see the bar that shows me if there are any questions, which is annoying. So this is Macken Mountain, and this is a very large spoil tip, and it's one of my favourite spoil tips for spoil tip fans out there. If you look at the picture, where the straight path is coming down off the front of the kind of head of the slug of the spoil tip, and the pathway curves round, you can see me in the photo controlling the drone that took this picture. So I was going to Photoshop myself out, and then I thought that I give myself I give the picture a sense of scale, really. You can see the size of that. So that was just left there, and now it's still there, and it was carried up there on buckets on a conveyor system, and that was done probably up to the 50s, I think, with this one, and now it's still at the top of the mountain. So it keeps making noises at me. And here we have Neath Ironworks, which is somewhere that should really be restored. Doing this project, I've really learned that Wales is very bad, excruciatingly bad at looking after its industrial heritage, and 99% of these places are just open to the elements and not looked after. And this is one of them, and it's basically behind a car park in a place selling second-hand cars. There's nothing to stop you walking in. There's no signage. There's basically nothing. And so I walked in and took the pictures. So it's difficult doing a project like this, because I don't want to be, struggling to get access to these places and trying to get permission and blah, blah, blah. But also I do want to see these places that are of world importance actually protected and looked after. So this is a piece of coal from a spoil tip up by, this is the Latian Common by Kilfennydd. And I was amazed to see that there was still so much coal not in the ground, it's just lying on top of the ground, where it's come from a local pit. And this isn't far from our house at all. This is like sunset light on it. And I just thought that it had this, people called it black gold, and it had this kind of feel to it. This is a bridge that I can't remember the name of, but it's one of the first iron bridges in the world to carry a tramway, and this is at Cyfarthfa. This is another drone shot, and again, you go there and there's no visitor center, there's no signs, there's no toilets, and you just think, is someone going to come and cut this down and melt it for scrap next week? It's not really being looked after. This is Pont y Gwaith, so that literally means Gwaith is works and Pont is bridge, so that means bridge to the works, and this is not far from Merthyr again as well. This is another drone shot. And then we've got if I go full screen on this one, we've got a very, very epic landscape of Dowlais in Merthyr. So you've got at the front the Dowlais works. This is the Ivor works, actually, and then beyond that, where you can see the new houses, would have been the Dowlais works, which is all totally gone. And then beyond that, you've got the Fossafran open cast mine, which is still an ongoing concern. And it's a pretty epic landscape when you get up there. And to think that back in the day, this entire landscape would have been ironworks is pretty impressive when you're there and you take time to go between these places. It blows your mind to think that this all would have been 2 ironworks, which were at one point the biggest in the world. That's the same weird looking kind of like a coffin shape almost, Macken Mountain again. And then we've got the Trevithick engine, which was the first engine to do powered transport from the works in Penydarren to Abercynon. This is the statue of it in Merthyr, which I think was 1802 or 1804. I can't remember. It's on the statue. But again, this is something that it's really, you go there and there's one statue and that's it. This was the first railway train in the world, and there's barely a mention of it. and it just blows my mind. So we've got Hetty, a winding house, which is not far from us in Hopkinstown. That's still a working, I mean, it's not a working pit, but it's staffed by volunteers that look after that, and you can visit that on a Sunday. And that's the same place again. So that's the winding gear there through the trees. Then we've got the 1931 again. And now we're back in Merthyr by Pant, where this is Pant Quarry. This is quite an unearthly and weird landscape, which is an old kind of disused quarry, which was lime workings to do with lime is used in iron production. And then we've got the very, very large fingertip. They're called fingertip, as in these fingertips, because they look like fingers. This is up by the top of Merthyr, by Heelgerig and Gethley Daig as well. And then we've got some conical tips, which are Llanbradach. So these are massive, and you can't really get a sense of scale for these, but these are my favorite spoil tips. And then we've got Cwm Coke Works, which looks like a battleship steam into nowhere. This is being demolished at the moment now. Reminded me of the Fight in Temeraire by Turner, if you know that painting. That it's about the oncoming modernism. It's a ship which is about to be kind of broken down, and it's a modern Victorian tug which is pulling it, and this kind of thing. This painting really reminded me of that kind of thing, of like an old battleship going to a port to be broken up for scrap. And then we've got a few statues, which statues obviously recently have become a big thing in the news. And I've explored a lot of the statues in South Wales. These are usually to do, this is the guy that had the docks in Barry. I can't remember his name, but he's quite a famous guy. And I think he was painted by Burne-Jones or someone like that as well. But yeah, when I started photographing the statues, the stuff with Black Lives Matter in Bristol hadn't happened yet. And now I look at these again in a slightly different context. And one of the other statues really is a bit weird. And I think it comes up later. Hello.
Someone said his name's David.
Yes, you might be right, actually. Yeah, thank you, because I can't see. I can't see the questions. Hang on, chat 12. Yes, Llandinam, that's right. You're all right. Oh my God, everyone. Yes, thank you, everyone. Yes, right, I'll go back. There's one of them is by the road as you drive into North Wales, and then there's the one of them in Barry Docks. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for saying David Davis. Not the David Davis that used to be on Midlands Today and then was in charge of the Football Association. I think that's a different guy. So this is Aberfan. And this is a apple tree, obviously, but it's on the site of where the pit was. And I can't help thinking that it's a mistake. It's not a planted tree, and it's not part of an orchard. So I think it's quite interesting. Another statue here. So this guy, he was in Tonopandi, and not Tonopandi, the one next to Llwynapia, and I can't remember his name either. But what I really liked about this setup is that the workers, so he was a good guy, and the workers put this up for him when he died, and he was overlooking his pit, but now he's overlooking an industrial estate, because that's what happens to everything in Wales. It gets turned into an industrial estate. But also Tonopandi, which was part of his pit, is where obviously the Tonopandi riots started, in the engine house, the electrical engine house of one of his buildings after he died. So that's a foreshore one, which I think just sums up the murkiness. And then another Walker Evans-esque. Yeah, Archibald Hood. Thank you, Peter. That's right. It's a great name, but trying to remember all this for one talk tonight is very difficult. So this is another Walker Evans-esque image, and this is actually on the Archibald Hood statue This is part of his memorial. So we're back to Merthyr again with one of the engine houses from Dowlais, which I think now is a youth club. And then this is just above us in Ponty, and this is a spoil tip again from a quarry. And I get really fascinated with the shape of these spoil tips, because they're very much like the barrows, or, you know, whatever you call a burial mound in that way. They're just very odd shapes, and you do think that they're like a burial mound, but particularly the coal ones, they're like a kind of memorial to the coal industry in that way, which is a weird kind of symbolism that they kind of unconsciously taken on this shape of a burial mound when they stand as an epitaph to their own industry. And that's something that's an ambiguity that I really like. So this Cumcoke works again, steaming off into the sunset here, fighting Temeraire. Oh, Greg's saying the image is half screen.
Yeah.
Is it though? No. Greg, you're wrong. It's full screen. Sorry to pint out. I think you've had a pint, Greg. So this is a Brickworks in Hirwaun. Half off screen. Greg, I can see it all. I love the colour of the rust here. And then this is a flyover, and this is next to the route of the train that I mentioned, which went from Penydarren to Abercynon. And I think it's interesting to show this. This structure is just massive and immense, but this is a direct kind of relation to that very first journey, which happened right underneath it. A very big spoil tip, an immense flattened off spoil tip, which is next to Big Pit. It's fine now, thank you. And I think at this point, I think one of these, because I think there's two distinct ones here. One of these at one point, it was just one massive pyramidal tip, which, you know, you can't, I think it's hard for us to imagine the size of them now. Hello? Can I move things over? Is that better?
It's fine for me, but some people are saying there's a problem.
Can you see now? Can someone tell me if you can see? Looks fine. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So, hang on. Oh, no, if I click on that. So more spoil tips. And then we've got skulls. And bear in mind, I've only got 8 minutes left already. So we've got skulls here, and skulls are the rock hard kind of imprint of the spoil, which was tipped directly from Eastmoor Steelworks into the water, and they leave this incredible kind of fossil-like thing. I mean, I don't even know what to call that kind of sphere thing. It looks like an egg, an alien egg, but that's probably like 3 meters across. It's quite hard to show the scale of these, so I'm fascinated by these on the foreshore. I want to make sure I'm not. So yeah, back to Dowlais. Really enjoy the architecture of the buildings that do remain. It's so obvious, I think, to see that chapel architecture and factory architecture, works architecture in South Wales is basically the same thing, and it was done by the same people because they look exactly the same. This is the landscape by Blenavon, Coity Hills. And this is a favourite one. So this is Ystrad Mynach. I have just totally forgotten the name of the pit, but I'm sure someone will be able to tell me in a minute what it is. I used to go to, I used to have a client here, Penafta. Yeah, you're right, totally right, Penafta. I used to go to Penafta Industrial Estate because one of my clients was Bright Sparks, and I did pretty much every major Christmas cracker content shot in Britain in 2004, 2005 was taken by me and that's in this area, Panafta Industrial Estate. Lenore, these buildings are brand new, and I think it's very interesting that they have taken on this kind of vernacular thing of like British semi-detached suburban Metroland buildings. But then in a very kind of David Lynch touch, they've left this monster at the end of the street, which you can only imagine the people that live in these streets probably absolutely hate that building, because it's not posh, but it's kind of I don't want to say nouveau riche for if there's anyone that actually lives there that's watching this talk. But yeah, we'll go on to the next one anyway. So this is Port Talbot, and I've put this one in thinking that potentially that might be a ruin before too long. And this is the area alongside it, which is all owned actually, I think, by Chorus. That's Hetty again, a bit of movement in Hetty at sunset. And then we've got the lime works at Aberthaw. We've got the Rhondda Heritage Park and the remains of the pit there. This is the remains of a shipwreck at Port Talbot. And that was, you know, it's a very, very interesting thing to see. Again, like I was saying earlier, these nylon kind of strands, just kind of the fishnet stuff really just wrapped around it, strangling it like ivy or something. That's the lime works again. And now we've got Old Smoky, which is the massive spoil tip in Tylerstown or Ferndale, or where, you know, it looks out over so many places. This is from Penrhys. Pretty special light that I was happy to get. But this is something that you can see from North Devon, someone has told me. The Walnut Tree Viaduct, I think this was called. So this is the last remaining stand of the viaduct by Taff's Well. And then we've got, oh, I've totally forgotten, Maindy, the pit there. This is part of the works there, tramway there. And again, Llanbradach tips, massive and incredible to look at in the landscape, like a kind of, you know, Egyptian pyramids. And then back to Old Smoky, just recently, that when we had the snow recently. And then Cyfarthur again with this kind of epic landscape painting feel. A flue, ventilation flue from a drift mine up by Blenavon, that is, which makes me think of the TARDIS, really surreal thing to come across in a landscape. No trees, very barren, just a few cows, and then this thing, which is a lot bigger than it looks actually. Where did the coal from Wales get exported to? All over the world. South Wales coal burnt particularly hot and was very good for, yeah, it is very Pink Floyd actually. South Wales coal burned particularly hot, and I think it was known as steam coal. I might be completely wrong in saying that, but it went to lots of places that potentially just needed coal for, because it was such high quality coal. It was to do with the temperature it burnt at, and that kind of, you know, that dictated where it went. It went wherever they needed this high quality, really hot burning coal, but potentially it went absolutely all over the world. I mean, I don't think much of it was used domestically, because that's why Britain had such awful pollution at that point, is because, yes, the first £1 million cheque, Brian, was written in the Coal Exchange in Cardiff, a building which is on the verge of collapse. Again, let's, you know, talk about heritage. So we've got Big Pit here, which is a museum which is open to the public. So this is an interesting one. This is Intraforest, so that's where I live. And this is, at one point, this is another crochet. And this at one point was the biggest tin works in the world. To the left of the picture here, you can see as part of the railway kind of siding, and then the works is behind that. But there's now anthrax on the land because it was, used as a gelatine factory in the 60s, and that's why it's closed off and never been used since, because it's there's anthrax spores in the ground, which isn't, you know, great for anyone. Another Walker Evans style thing here using text, and the image of the building is within the sign, which I really loved. So the guest club was the library for the workers, for the Dowless works. And then I think something happened like that. The managers thought that's a bit too grand for the workers. We'll build them another library and we'll have this as our like gentleman's club. So that's what happened. They kicked the workers out and they took that over. This is still, the building is still there in Merthyr. It's a private kind of, I wouldn't call it a pub now really, but and then we're back to the foreshore, the kind of epic sense of scale of the place. And then the kind of middle distance, you can see the Llanbradach tips again, looking very, very Egyptian there. And then we're in, I think in Pentra or Ystrad here, looking at another very large spoil tip. And then we're back to Trehafod, which is a lovely place. And we nearly moved to Trehafod, but we went for Treforest. And then there you can see the Rhondda Heritage in the background there. And then this is another Walker Evans-esque kind of God-fearing thing on a grave. And then this is an interesting one. I really like this one. Great. Thank you, Catherine. Grampy worked as a collier in Penallta and Llanbradach. Great, amazing. Poor blighter, but I'm sure he did a good job, but I don't envy anyone that worked underground particularly. Incredible, and we can't even imagine the hardship really these days. So this picture is Lifter 96. Okay, well, they built of sterner stuff in those days, obviously. So this is the shadow of the Macon Mountain tip. And what's interesting here is that as you look through towards the distance, it looks out towards Cardiff and to where the docks were, and then out to the sea and the Bristol Channel, which is where the coal, you know, was moved on the ships. So this really shows the whole kind of journey of the coal from the area it was taken out the ground, transported to Cardiff, and then taken wherever. This is the whole journey within the one picture, really. And some nice ponies. Some nice ponies in Merthyr, and I think we're almost at the end. I think we are at the end. Oh, I've done that. Just bang on. So if anyone there now, because this is very weird talking to you all without being able to hear anything, if any of you have now got any questions, let me know and I will answer the questions. So I will close that. And we're back there. We've still got 83 participants, so I haven't lost too many. When you take photos, what equipment do you take with you? Do you travel light? I've got a D800 Nikon DSLR. I've got a 24mm lens, a 35mm lens, a 60mm macro, and an 85mm that I usually carry with me. I've got a 180mm that I take with me if I know I'm going somewhere that I might need it. And I've just bought a 70 to 300mm VR lens because my back was broken and I just couldn't carry any more stuff anymore. So that was, yes, that's my equipment really. Rachel Cable, totally agree with comments about what can we do to make, oh my God, Rachel, absolutely nothing. They couldn't care less. As you know, with the, oh, sorry, I've got to read out Rachel's question. Tech help desk is, oh, hang on. There's loads of questions now. Hang on, guys. What can be done to preserve heritage, and what can we do to make decision makers, government, local authorities, etc., do more to care about it? I think as people on our own, we can do very little. I think if we group together, we can probably make them take notice. But you still look at situations like what happened with Goody Who in Cardiff, which is a Cardiff bar, which was in an old building. A massive campaign happened to save it. They said it was saved, and then they knocked it down and kept the facade. And it's really difficult. And I don't really know. Maybe what you can do as someone is go and experience these places before they're gone, because I think the march of progress is such a thing these days that even kind of left-wing Labour-led councils, the amount of money that they're offered to just knock things down. I mean, I saw on Twitter today that Cardiff council officers in Atlantic Wharf, they've been there less than 35 years. They're already talking about knocking it down and building a new building. It's like, how can a 35-year-old building be value for money if it's knocked down after 35 years? Oh, give us some hope. Sorry, I don't do hope. Greg Mothersdale says, is there anywhere you'd like to photograph where you haven't been to yet? I'd like to go to Porthgain properly to do the brickworks there. And I'd also like to go up to Blaenau Festiniog for an extended amount of time to do all the slate mining stuff around there. And I'd also really, really like to go to a place called Parry's Mountain, which is a copper mine in North Wales, which is like 4,000 years old or something. Is there a community project to record them, photographs, words, and involve schools? Stuff like that would be great. It's all down to local people, I think, and that's the difficulty, that local people don't feel part of the process, and they don't feel involved in buildings and saving buildings. And you know, landowners like to keep stuff to the point where it's literally teetering on the edge before they'll do anything about it necessarily. Output for the project. This is a very good question. So I'm looking at a couple of things with this. It's very likely to be shown, hopefully, in the Pierhead building next summer in Cardiff Bay. I think that's the perfect setting for it because of the history of the bay, the docks, the building, and like I've said, the relationship with the area. I'm looking at doing it potentially as projections rather than prints, because I've had a lot of experience with prints, and prints are really, really hard to transport. Glass is fragile, and like this is a tiny edit of the work. There's nearly 500 pictures in this, so I think to show more work, it would be on a set of screens and it would flick through. I love the portrait of people. Will I be doing pictures of people? Yeah, the people stuff. So there's a project which goes alongside this, which is called The Dream in Valleys, and that's a portrait project. And that's more people based. And that is, that's something that I'm looking to exhibit as well. Hello?
There's questions in the chat.
Oh, there's questions in the chat. Have I visited Navigation Colliery in Crumlin? Yes, I have. It's brilliant, and I flew my drone over it the other day, and I'm going to head into it soon. So that's exciting.
Somebody's asked, what do you think the story of Allure of Ruins says about 21st century?
Oh, I haven't seen that one. The story, I mean, God. I think there's lots of things that the project says, and I think that the way that the wider political way that the decline of industry in Wales was managed is very interesting. And I don't know if there was a will to just wipe it off the face of the earth, and I don't know what part of the political spectrum that came from. But it kind of feels as if people just wanted to wipe it off the map because they didn't want to see the ways that workers had been exploited. And you can look at that from a kind of left-wing point of view. From a right-wing point of view, obviously with Thatcher and the miners' strike and stuff like that, they just wanted to smash the unions, and they, you know, they wanted to get rid of that power base. And the only way to do that was to close the mines. And I think a lot of what you see with the way these works are treated has got a lot to do with that. It is that the history of the working person in Wales is all to do with exploitation, and every part of that is to do with organisation and unionising, and then it's to do with the people that kind of pay the wages saying we're not having that and just closing the works down. Using the drone, yeah, I love using the drone, and it's really, really interesting, and you see a lot of stuff that you don't that you can't see, but what you really see is where people have walked and they've left the kind of furrows in the landscape, and it's that kind of human scale that I find really interesting. These little tracks and tramways, and it's the people that were moving around the big bits of stuff that I find interesting, that they've left these little tracks.
On the chat, it says, you stop and listen to the landscape.
Yeah, I do listen to the landscape, and I record a lot of the landscape, and I've got a lot of wild tracks done on a digital recorder, and I will be hoping to include those in the whatever book, CD. Hello.
In the dark.
Oh, am I in the dark? I'm always in the dark. So that is pretty much it, guys. If there's any more questions, 3 cheers for tech support in the background. Hashtag spoil tips. Well done, Helen. I never call her Helen, but thank you. Yes, making tips safe. Yeah, I mean, that's something now that's, my photos were used just recently. The fact is there's still like 300 tips that aren't safe. Thank you very much, Karis. So yeah, I think safety is a big thing. Maybe the sounds will be played in the pier head. Yes, they will be. I thank you, Peter. I'd really like that to happen. Oh, hang on, it's going a bit. Oh, it's going a bit fast now. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Lenore. Thank you. Yes, that's very interesting. I think Indigenous people do have a different relationship with the land, and I think that it's something the Welsh people do seem to have, and English people don't necessarily engage with. And I think that I engage with it more in Wales than I did in England, which is quite a strange thing, really. Right. I think we're pretty much done there. So shall I say thank you to everyone now? Yeah. I'm saying thank you to everyone now, which is basically me. Thank you to me. Thank you to Hel for doing tech support. Thank you for all of your patience for the first 10, 15 minutes or so of this. And oh, I am thinking about doing a talk about other people, other photographers. The first one I will do, if I do it, is Bruce Davidson, and it will be about how I located some of his locations in Ebbw Vale and what I did about that. So if this is the kind of thing that's kept you from watching TV for an hour tonight, let me know on Twitter, and I'll be happy to do that for you all. So, oh, you're all saying yes, please. Okay, well, jolly good. Well, I'll probably do that then. There's still 72 people here. I feel like I should keep talking. Well, no. Okay, no. Okay, so I've been told that no, I can't keep talking. And there's an episode of, what is it you want to watch now? Yeah, there's Interior Design Masters now to watch that we're recording. So thank you all for coming. And I really hope that you've all enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I can't remember anything that happened, but that's great. So, right, thank you all, and I'll see you on Twitter. If you want to let me know any, gripes or complaints, please let me know, because those are the things that I particularly enjoy. And yeah, I'm only 43. I know you can't believe it, but there we are. Okay, on that bombshell, Oh yeah, Cleaver says plug the podcast. I've also got a podcast about British horror films, and it's called General Witchfinders. So make sure you Google that. Okay. Love, light, and peace, everyone. Goodbye.